When I first learned that I was being investigated by DCF, I almost couldn't breathe. I mean, it was a state of concern. I was very nervous. A feeling of dread came over me, and I was just very emotional and upset. All I could think about was my children and their safety. I needed some guidance on what to do. I was afraid, deathly afraid, that somebody would invade our home and take the kids out of their home, take them away from me. I was in a state of panic. I would have been a madwoman. I would have just fallen to the floor and, just couldn't breathe. I don't even want to think about it. It would have been awful. And in me feeling that way, I can only imagine what my kids would feel like. If my children were removed from their home by DCF, they would be terrified, so scared, alone. They would be looking for their mom. They would be looking for help. They just wouldn't know how to process something like that, and it would be devastating, no matter how you look at it. Once I received the email, the notice saying that I was being investigated by Massachusetts DCF, I could not sleep whatsoever. I was worried 24 hours of the day. I didn't know what their report said, and that was concerning to me because if you don't have all of the facts, then you can't advocate for yourself. Once I learned I was being investigated by DCF, I could not eat. I didn't have an appetite. My entire world was crashing, and my kids, all I could do was think about my kids, just trying to wrap my mind around everything was overwhelming. I was a nervous mess. I was scared. I had to write everything down because I was terrified. And when you're in that kind of state, you tend to not think like your normal self. Everything in my world collapsed. It was sleep, eating, work. Every time I was driving, I was thinking about the worst thing. Everything. Your life freezes, and it starts going in either slow motion or, you start thinking, what if, and all these things start happening in your mind. The worst thing, oh, what if it was like this? And it's terrifying. I didn't have a plan because I didn't plan for it. And when I did learn about the report, I did as much as I could to slow down, take a minute to think, what would I advise a good friend to do? And I took those steps in trying to help my kids and me try to get out of this dark road we were starting to go down. Well, I looked up attorneys in the Boston area it was Massachusetts DCF attorneys in Greater Boston, and Mr. Attorney Kevin Seaver's name came up. Naturally, I had taken a look at a few of them, but his name did rise to the top, along with his great reviews. There was not just one or two, but there was just a lot to read, and it was a no-brainer for me. I wanted to call Attorney Seaver, so I did. And he was very responsive. I think I put in an online inquiry form that afternoon, and I received a call from him at the same afternoon, which was really nice, and it was impressive. And in that kind of urgency, I really appreciated a lawyer calling me back. I wasn't his client yet. It was just an inquiry, and for an attorney to call you back that fast is good news. Once I spoke to him, I didn't talk to anyone else. He was the first one I put in an inquiry for, and he was the last person I spoke to. So I made up my mind that he was a good, very good, strong DCF lawyer, And then after I hired Attorney Seaver and had conversations with him, yes, I could absolutely start breathing again, which was a relief. And I had peace of mind, which I can't even put into words. Peace of mind once Attorney Seaver gets involved with your case. It's just, I have no words for it. I really do feel confident in saying that he's doing everything he should be doing for you. And it's not a situation that any parent wants to get in. But if you find yourself in a spot where you're being investigated by DCF, I just wouldn't advise doing it by yourself. And there could be, valid allegations or not. It's just, you need someone to represent you, or else I'm not sure what would happen, but it's just not a territory I want to get into. When I decided to choose Attorney Kevin Seaver to represent my children and me, there was a few things that sets him apart. Number one, he exclusively, this is what he does. He represents families with DCF, and he has a lot of experience. A lot of other law firms do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and they don't exclusively do one side of a practice. Kevin Seaver's website, it was geared all towards DCF. His reviews, and there was just so much information. There was YouTube, there was his website, there was a lot of different things he had out there that gave, and all of it aligned, all of it was accurate. At the time, I didn't know too much about him, but as I got to know him, all of it rings true. And who wants an attorney representing you that is not, strong and firm on the phone? You may not like everything everyone has to say, but do they do their job well? And Attorney Seaver is the best at what he does. So he started to prepare me. First of all, he knew that I was really nervous. I don't think I'm really describing how nervous I was. So nervous that I couldn't even speak in clear sentences. But you know what? He did stop me, and he started to gain my trust. He gives you his cell phone number. He listens. He remembers. He guides you. So he helped me stay focused, which is really, really important going through this. He took the time to prepare me for the phone call that we had with DCF, and that was extremely helpful to keep me focused on the issue at hand and make sure that the story is heard from my side. Getting that preparation with Kevin Seaver is key. There it is right there. You're an emotional parent. You want to be heard, right? And DCF has a right to inquire, lining up all the facts. So what happens if you don't do that well? Well, everything will just start to collapse. All your fears come alive, and the worst thing that you can imagine happens. But when you listen to someone who is representing you that knows the process, that can help guide you and get you ready for that interaction with DCF, this is what you need to do. Then you do it. You get it done with him, and he helps get you there. Attorney Seaver helped get my children ready by making all of us feel comfortable. Just tell them the truth. The kids can feel the energy with their parents, so they can see that I trust Kevin Seaver. So they naturally have the same instinct. When I met with the DCF investigator, it went very well because we had prepared. We knew what we were going to go over. We stayed just focused on getting their questions answered, and we were prepared for that. We knew where they were going to go, and we knew what the truth was, and we were trying, and we did successfully have a good call with that investigator. I started to feel confident in myself and the facts, because from someone who has decades of experience dealing with a specific department, whether we're talking about DCF, if there's someone in a field where they have years and years of experience, you're going to want to trust that person. But once you have business with that person and there's a reason for you to communicate and get to know what they're like in their business, that's where you start to really trust what they're saying. I was pretty nervous. I think my kids were nervous too. But after talking to Kevin, things started to, subside. The anxiety starts to come down. And we all felt just a lot better being in this battle with Kevin. And what Kevin did was stated a fact, right? Well, this is who called. My client didn't call, and it was a good point that should be made, especially when they're insinuating something, but only because they're not looking at one clear fact. So my children felt really comfortable, as comfortable as they could be, talking to the DCF investigator, because they were prepared by Kevin Seaver. Kevin Seaver not only got me ready, but he helped, prepare my kids too. And that's just priceless. That really says a lot, to take the time to talk to the kids about there's going to be someone that's talking to you, and, they may ask about school and your friends, and, just say hi and be yourself. While we were getting ready for our meeting with DCF, Kevin Seaver contacted the different places that we needed to get information from, so that we had as much as we could to help present ourselves for that meeting. He made it very clear to me that he was following up with that investigator every day to find out, if a decision had been made. He did all that. He did circle back. He was going full circle, and it's awesome. Who doesn't want that? I really did appreciate him not only just getting me ready for the meeting, but trying to close the loop on the entire thing. On a scale of 1 to 10, I would give Attorney Seaver a 10 plus plus plus. That's what he's earned for, my kids and me. So that comes from the heart. It comes from a place of sincere, right from the bottom of my heart. I thank Kevin for everything that he did. I wouldn't have met him if it wasn't for this god-awful experience, but, we did meet, and I am glad that I chose him. He does get everything done, and he does everything that you need to help yourself in this messy situation. If I had a friend or a neighbor get a call or an email from DCF saying that they were being investigated for abuse or neglect, I would tell them to take a time out and make sure that you find a lawyer that you trust. You do need to respond, right? You do want to reply back to the person. However, you want to do it in the best way possible without causing yourself and your family more harm. The lawyer I would tell them to trust would be Attorney Kevin Seaver. I would tell a parent who is on the fence about hiring Attorney Seaver is to close your eyes and think for a minute. After a long, exhausting day at work, your kids are just falling asleep, and that feeling of happiness and just peace that comes over you when you're all just right there together. What if someone threatened that moment? And what if someone disrupted your kids' lives in a way that you can't undo the damage? The cost of hiring an attorney who would represent your family in a messy situation is priceless. You do everything you can to protect yourself and your children by hiring Kevin Seaver. Absolutely. Now that we have a decision from the investigator with an unsupported finding, I feel like, of course, I feel a huge sigh of relief, and I really do thank Attorney Seaver for helping me get to that point.